just got the experience there from of Sokoto State, how the election went. It's one of the states where governorship supplementary elections held yesterday. But of course, we are yet to get the result of that one. We mentioned Plateau yesterday, where the election has already been concluded for the governorship election, for the governorship seat in the state. Let's take another look at that process, and we'll have a conversation on it.
Eligible voters arriving at one of the polling units for the supplementary election. The early arrival of voting materials and the presence of security operatives are indications of what to expect here. True to it, the accreditation and voting proper began immediately, with the card readers working optimally.
The process is going very well. We open poll on time. The materials are there, and the voters are there. There's adequate security. Things are going well. The smart card reader is functioning. I haven't seen anywhere that it is been reported to be having any problems.
Some of the reasons adduced before now for the supplementary elections include the issue of overvoting and malfunctioning of card readers in some cases, leading to the cancellation of votes at some of the polling centers. This remains a concern to some of the voters.
If actually there is overvoting in a polling unit, I expect that authority, the law enforcement agents should arrest those officials, deal with them, try them in the law court. If 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 are found liable and convicted, there will be a deterrent to others, and we will move forward.
In this main polling unit, we have 453.
As sorting and counting alongside collation of results continue, the voters are eagerly waiting for the final outcome of the Plateau State governorship election, with hopes that it would not be another inconclusive exercise.
Well, that's the process of the gubernatorial election in Plateau State, and of course, some state constituency rerun elections or supplementary elections also held. Well, right now we're being joined by the National Coordinator of Advocate for People's Rights and Justice. He is in our studios in Abuja, Victor Giwa. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. Well, we've just seen an assessment of a review of what took place in Plateau State, and this was the general mood, except some skirmishes here and there in a number of states. What's your assessment of the process so far? All right, I guess we'll have to take that again. But as soon as we have the National Coordinator, Advocate for People's Rights and Justice, we'll most certainly get that. Again, I'd like us to take the declaration of results in the Plateau State governorship election again, so you know that indeed that has taken place, it's come and it's gone. And a governor is in the waiting for the people of Plateau State.
The following candidates contested for the governorship of Plateau State under their various parties, and I will call out the names and their scores. Number 1, Samuel Danuta K. Danauta K. 1,071 votes. He is of the ABP. Number 2, Dawa Yohana D. AD, 229 votes. Musa Bitrus Joseph, AGC, 1,627 votes. Jonathan N. Temlong, ADP, 4,670. Alex Ladan, ANN, 2,273. Simon Bako Lalong, APC, 595,582 votes. Jerry Mambwe Motok, UPC, 34 votes. Isa Azuka Jega, UPP, 54 votes. From the foregoing, Barrister Simon Bako Lalong of APC, having satisfied the requirements of law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared the winner and is in turn elected.
Well, still back here in our supplementary election studios where we're bringing you all the updates necessary for you to know what's happening here and there. As we mentioned earlier, the Plateau State Governor is now clear. It is Simon Lalong. He's been re-elected as Plateau State Governor for another 4 years. That tenure takes off May 29th when the swearing-in takes place. As we said, we have with us the National Coordinator, Advocate for People's Rights and Justice, Mr. Victor Giwa. He joins us from Abuja. Hello there, and thanks for joining us. So, so far, what's your take on the process, especially Plateau State and a number of other places you may be aware of?
Well, thank you so much. Good morning, Nigerians. Well, it's been a mixed bag. The elections, the supplementary elections in Bauchi, Kano, Benue State, and Plateau, has again reinforced or restated the fact that Nigerians are not really ready. We are really not ready for free and fair elections. We have seen it from all stakeholders. I mean, INEC, the voters themselves, and the worst part of it is the security agency. The kind of reports we are getting from places where we have our observers. We have observers in Kano and Benue State, Otukpo in particular, and some areas of Kano. The kind of reports we are getting there, indicates that we really have a very long way to go. We have a very long way to go. I don't think Nigerians have made up their mind whether to have a free and fair election. It's not just in pontification. It's not just in words of mouth. We must match our words with action. The results so far and the environment, we are no more interested about the result. As an election observer, we are not so much keen about the result. We are keen about the process. We want to see a sanitized process. We want to see a process that has the integrity of the ballot. We want to see a process that reflects, fairness, equity, and fair play. Whoever wins is not to us. It's not the issue. It is the fact that the processes were fair, the processes were transparent, the processes were just. And of course, when the processes are good, the product will be a reflection of the process. So when you have a faulty process, you are going to get a wrong product. I think that is what is happening. And INEC in particular, the security agency should really put their head down to say that, that they've really done a very bad job. I don't know what we can do, because it seems that we have really a very, very long way to go, especially in Kano and in Benue State.
Yeah, Mr. Giwa, you just said that we have a long way to go, and of course I think many people will agree with you. But then the question one may want to ask is, what is responsible for these pockets of violence and unruliness. We had an experience in Benue where materials were burnt that could have addressed the electoral needs of 13,000 people. And we also heard what happened in Bauchi, where there was a pushback, as well as in Kano, where there were frontal violence. How could we have avoided all of these?
Good question. Good question. That is the question. The real reason for this distortion, in the electoral process is, one, because of impunity. Impunity is the word. It's not corruption. It's impunity. When you know that when you go against the law, you face the wrath of the law. When you have that conviction, when you are sure that, look, when I violate any provision of the law will take its course against me. I will not want to undermine the law. So what we have seen so far from Benue to Kano and to some other areas is just, blatant and brazen impunity. People who are telling us that, look, it doesn't matter what you do, in as much as you got some persons to cover you. That is the first problem. That is the first issue. The second is greed. Nigerians, our political elite are just full of greed. They don't care what, they don't care. They are not there to serve Nigerians. So the all about asking and seeking for political power is for their own personal aggrandizement. And thirdly, it is because even the system itself, the system have not also taken care of some of the prevailing issues. And let me talk about the system. For example, I don't see any reason why the electoral guideline, INEC electoral guideline, should say that when a particular candidate has emerged under the section 279 subsection 2AB of the Constitution, that states, for example, for a governorship election, the winner should be person who has scored 2/3 of the votes in the local government and have scored the highest number of votes. I don't see why the electoral guideline should now make further provision to say that, well, when the number of votes cast in the leading vote between the two leading, the vote between the two leading candidates is less than the total number of registered voters in a particular polling unit that is cancelled, there should be a supplementary election. Section 279, subsection 2, paragraph A and B of the Constitution has spelled out what the condition should be. So if either of the parties did not meet that condition, then the need for a supplementary election to meet the provision of the Constitution, because the Constitution is supreme. So most of the things, most of the supplementary election we have had, they will say it is as a result of the non-conformity or non-adherence with that provision of the electoral guideline that says that when the votes between the two leading candidates, is less than the total number of registered voters in a particular polling unit that is cancelled, then there need to be a supplementary election. And that is what has, taken us to this level. And I think that in so many cases, the Supreme Court have said that that particular provision is inconsistent with the Constitution. Now, when you are saying, when the Constitution has made an express provision on how a candidate will emerge, the electoral guidelines should not derogate that provision. And I think that is what has caused some of these supplementary elections we're having. So put together what has generated, what has caused some of these crises is, one, impunity in the system; two, the greediness of our political elite; three, is the faulty system, talking about the electoral guidelines that has necessitated some of these.
Mr. Giwa, Mr. Giwa, there is an important element that I think you have left out, and that is the people. I mean, you advocate for people's rights and justice and all of that, but which is of course a good thing. But the people element here is also very, very instructive, because unless there were people to be compromised, there is no way the political class could have been able to compromise anyone. So what could the people themselves have, what could they have done themselves to avert this kind of situation that we have on our hands? Because unless we get it right, it's going to be a rat race.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you that the people play, a very major, role in terms of ensuring that we have a functional and an effective system. However, when the system is faulty, the people now carry the toga, they carry the ambience of the system. When a system is faulty, the people fall into that kind of faulty system. So it has to do with the system itself. Yes, the people have a role to play, but let me just give you a very good example of what I'm saying. A returning officer in Benue State was shot, from your report, when he was taking the results to the coalition office. Now, you will ask yourself, a returning officer, to the best of my knowledge, is not an INEC permanent staff. They are always, at least since 2015, they are appointed by INEC. Sometimes they are lecturers in universities and College of Education and all of that. Now, why should such person be shot? For two reasons. One, the persons who shot that returning officers must have done that because they know they can go away with it. Two, the persons who did that might have been guaranteed safety. I mean, you might have guaranteed somebody that, look, you first of all, you must explain how the person became armed. You must explain how the person was going about carrying small arms. Is that arm licensed? Not to talk about shooting the person. So you will ask yourself, that is why the first point I mentioned is the point of impunity. You see, let me tell you, human beings generally have this natural tendency to be dissidents. Human beings generally have a natural tendency to go against the law. Human beings have the general tendency to be recalcitrant. Human beings have the general tendency to be very, very, spurious. But you need the law. That is why there is law. That is why we have the law. If people are natural, if people are naturally reasonable, then we wouldn't have been having laws. There are laws in Nigeria, there are laws in the United Kingdom, there are laws in the US. It is not because the citizens there are normal, that is why we have laws. We have laws because citizens sometimes could be abnormal. Citizens could act in a very questionable way. So, but when you have put up the laws to put citizens in the right frame of mind or in the right course, then the citizens will act according to the law. So when the law is not effective, what you will now see is impunity. And so that is why, to me, and to us in Advocate for People's Rights and Justice, it is the law. It is the people who enforce the law. In Kano State, for example, we have a lot of clips from our observers who were sending us pictures how thugs were harassing voters. In the public glare, thugs were carrying cutlasses, machetes, and sticks, and all of that. And when the DIG investigation was interviewed, he was saying well, he can confirm some amount of violence, and some persons have been arrested. But you see, he has not really answered those questions.
Okay, all right.
If
all right,
we have
Mr.
a system where security of
Yeah, I wanted to, follow up on what you were talking about concerning impunity. In 2015, we remember there was a kind of, something similar, happened, kind of uproar during the collation and announcement of results for the presidential election in 2015. And that is not the first. I also remember that even for this presidential and governorship election so far, more than 1,000 people have been arrested. Are you saying that there is an assurance that none of these people are going to be prosecuted? Because I remember that a significant number of them were prosecuted the last time this happened.
Yes, there is. I don't know. I cannot give an assurance whether they will be prosecuted. The institution that
have they never been prosecuted? Are you saying they have never been prosecuted for disturbing the process?
institution that owes the responsibility for assurance is the Nigerian Police Force and other security agencies.
But they have already assured us that, some have been prosecuted before, and these more than 1,000 people will also be prosecuted. So how can you claim impunity when there is deterrence?
No. Let us not mix it. Let us not mix it. You see, people like us who have been on the ground, we have interfaced with some of these institutions. We know what we are talking about. When they have assured us that some persons have been prosecuted, can we know who are those persons? Who are those persons that are prosecuted? I mean, you go to courts, I'm a lawyer, you go to courts around Nigeria, you see somebody who steals handset, the person is taken to court and summarily is convicted, is sent to some years in prison. You see somebody who stole goat. I've heard of somebody who stole goat in Osun State. He was taken to court and he was in prison. When they're talking about people that have been prosecuted, you are not just talking about the persons you arrested. The sponsors, who sponsored them, those are the persons we are talking about. You see, in Nigeria, politics is a big.
How can you confirm,
the biggest investment?
Mr. Giwa, how can you confirm the people who sponsor these people if there is no proof? You will need evidence to be able to prosecute or to establish the fact that these are the sponsors of these people.
Yeah, the issue is this. The issue is this. You see, that is the problem we are having in this country. And you see, it's going to affect you and I if we continue with that line of thought that, how do we establish the people who sponsor them when we don't have evidence? Am I going to establish that? It is the police. It is the security agency. You cannot be asking me, you and I should be interrogating the security agency that who is sponsoring, who sponsored these persons. Some of them, you will see them with arms. You will see them with items that ordinarily should not be in the hands of any right-thinking person. So the security agency should go beyond just arresting the miscreants. We should go to the sponsors of these persons, because if you don't, that is curing the ailment from the root and not the symptoms. The persons you see on the street are just persons who have been teleguided, who have been used. We must look for the sponsors. We need to see conviction of political sponsors. The talks who were sponsored by the politicians. Until you see, now for example, we are seeing in the case of financial frauds, we are seeing ex-governors being sent to prison because, of course, of financial fraud. We need to see that in issue of electoral violence, where lives of people are at stake, where people right now in Nigeria, in 2019, we are talking about elections and we are talking about deaths. We are recording numbers of persons who have been killed. I mean, it is ridiculous. I mean, we should put our head down in shame that in this 21st century, when persons go about conducting elections in Nigeria, let us not look at, except where you see violence are places where they just come out from internal war. But not for a country like Nigeria. We are well read, we are exposed, we are well traveled. We are supposed to be the giant of Africa, if we are, of course, that we claim to be. We are supposed to be the second or the biggest economy in Africa. And the whole world are looking at us. And the only thing we are showcasing is the fact that we are just conducting something as civil as an election, and we are recording persons who are going out with machetes.
Mr. Giwa, you and I are together on this case that you are making. I absolutely agree that there is need to that for those deterrents to be there. But then just as you said, you are a lawyer. It's always there always has to be some form of evidence or the other proven beyond reasonable doubt. That's what you lawyers say. This is perhaps also pointing to, just as you mentioned, the system maybe touching up the electoral system in a way that is a clear-cut direction for punishing electoral violence. What's your take on that?
Yes, yes. You know, when issue of crime is not just electoral violence, when issue of crime is mentioned, it has to be proved beyond reasonable doubt. That is not in doubt. And you see, I don't have issue with the proof beyond reasonable doubt because that has to be done in court. You see, we need to be on the same page on this, and I want our viewers to understand the point I'm making. So the point is that the security agency should arrest not just the persons who are on ground, the people who sponsored these persons. Let it be that they went to court, these sponsors went to court, and the court acquitted them because there was no evidence. We don't have a problem with that. I mean, if the court acquits anybody for lack of evidence, well, that is an issue that has to be dealt with in the court. But I am saying now, let us elucidate the obvious before we obliterate the obscure. Let us ask the question, who are sponsoring this person? And the persons or the authorities who should answer some of these questions are the security agency. I mean, that is very simple. Look, if you can have cases of armed robbers, people who take cocaine, and security agency apprehend such persons, we should be more, stringent on issue of electoral violence. Let me tell you, the greatest crime you can commit is the crime against the people. Because if you subvert the electoral process, you are going to be bringing in criminals into the system. You'll be bringing persons who did not come into the system through the will and the wishes of the people. That person will not be fair to the system. The person will steal our money. The person will not give consent to the people. The person will not look at the yearnings of the people because he has come in through that process through an illegal or through what I will call a violence process. So that is why we need to be sure of how our leaders emerge. So the process of emergence of our leader is very key.
All right, Mr. Giwa.
That, okay.
Thank you very much for that, and I think that's really, really very, very clear. Victor Giwa, National Coordinator, Advocate for People's Rights and Justice. Please stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We'll have news on the hour, and we'll be back with Mr. Giwa and maybe one or two other persons.